Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Ben, and I want to talk about books, and the one I want to talk about today is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. This book blew me away. When you read a really great book, oftentimes there is a sentence or a phrasing that really sticks with you and really just blows your head back, really just is impressively artfully sculpted writing, and it's the kind of line in the book that'll just really stay with you. This book had several of these, multiple earth-shattering, powerful sentences and conclusions and writings that have just stuck with me in the voice since I read this book. They are some of the more powerful pieces of writing that I've seen. They have the weight of the world behind them. They all run straight over the top of you and you won't stand a chance. Multiple times throughout this book, I was tearing up. It's just incredible writing surrounding the story of two women that forge a lifelong bond under the most dire of circumstances, where the story is largely situated in Kabul during the uprising of the Taliban in Afghanistan and follows the story of these women across the 70s to kind of the early 2000s. So it's a 4-part book where the first part follows Mariam as a young girl who grows up as an only child with her mother, where her father visits on a weekly basis as Mariam was born out of wedlock and brought a shame to her father Jalil and his household. And so Mariam was not really made aware of this until a soul-crushing scene where she goes to visit her father only to be promptly rejected. Mariam then loses her mother and blames herself for it. And so Mariam kind of feels like all these kind of terrible things that happened to her is almost deserved as a sort of penance, I guess. The second part of the story follows Layla, who is a young girl that grows up in the area where Mariam now lives, where Mariam was promptly married off to a man that was more than twice her age. And Layla is more of a headstrong daughter of a teacher, educated, more go-getter character. And through a series of unfortunate events with the Taliban uprising and war and turmoil and bombings and shootings throughout the city of Kabul, these two stories are collided unceremoniously, and at first they don't get along, but part 3 kind of outlines how they forge an everlasting friendship. A number of awful things happens to both of these characters throughout the books. It's incredibly heartbreaking and difficult to read. It's the kind of book that you kind of put down at the end of a chapter for a few minutes because you just need to sit with what you just read. It's one that takes a little bit longer to read. It's not necessarily because of its length, but its content. So when I think about how good is this book? Well, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's easily one of the best books that I've ever read. And immediately upon reading it, I was like, well, that's a 5-star book. And I thought to myself, well, is it? Does 5 stars mean it's perfect? Is it a perfect book? And nothing's perfect, but I think this is almost as close as you're going to get. This is going to be one of those ones that's going to stick with me for a very long time. And it'll be a book that I will go to in recommendations to almost anybody that I speak to. One of the characters talks about how, despite everything that's happened to her, she knows that if she's not there, then she will not be able to to watch her friends' children grow up and grow older and be a part of their lives. And so despite everything, she can very clearly see what things are hopeful for her in the future and why she's willing to endure almost anything to get there. And I think that is such a heartwarming kind of way to view the world that offers a bit of perspective. And I think it's refreshing to kind of have seen what a lot of women's lives would have been like during that time. The author, Khaled, went to Kabul after writing The Kite Runner, and spoke to a number of women who lived during this time, during the rise of the Taliban and, in a post 9/11 Afghanistan, and what their experiences were. And not that he, sculpted these characters over any one story, but rather they spawned from an understanding of the collective experience of women in that time period. It's a very real story. The characters feel incredibly real. It feels like they're telling you their story rather than Khaled illustrating it. I haven't read The Kite Runner. I don't own it. I'm definitely going to find a copy, pick it up and read it, because I suspect it's going to be just as good. So absolutely, read Thousand Splendid Suns. It's incredible. You'll love it. Give it a go. It's incredibly heartbreaking, but at the same time offers just as much hope for the future, somehow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.